Daniel Wright walked into the massive council room with his dog by his side. Luna was a German shepherd with brown and black fur that shined under the bright alien lights. Her ears stood up straight as she looked around at all the strange creatures filling the huge space. This was the Galactic Council, a place where aliens from 47 different worlds came to talk about important things. Daniel was here to speak for Earth. He wanted humans to join the Galactic Trade Consortium, which would let Earth buy and sell things with other planets. The room was full of beings that looked nothing like humans. Some had scales, others had shells, and some looked like giant bugs. They all stared at Daniel and Luna as they walked to the center of the room. Daniel stood at a tall platform made of smooth silver metal. Luna sat down next to him, her tail brushing across the floor. She was calm and quiet, just like she had been trained to be. A large creature that looked like a walking insect stepped forward. His name was Krillix, and he was the ambassador from a race called the Vrex. He had many legs and arms, and his eyes were made of thousands of tiny parts that reflected light like diamonds. Krillix made a clicking sound that the translation device changed into laughter. The human brings a tamed animal to our council meeting. How strange, how simple-minded. Other aliens in the room started making noises too. Some clicked, some hissed, and some made sounds that the translator could not even change into words. They were all laughing at Daniel and Luna. A lizard-like alien with green scales spoke up. His people were called the Thraxi. On our worlds, we keep animals for eating. You keep hunters as friends and call them family. This shows us why humans think with their hearts instead of their heads. Daniel kept his face calm even though he wanted to say something angry. He took a deep breath and spoke clearly. Luna is more than just a pet. Dogs have been with humans for over 15,000 years. They helped us hunt for food. They protected our homes. They helped people who could not see or hear. They gave us comfort when we were sad. Krillix waved one of his thin arms in the air like he was pushing Daniel's words away. Feelings. Your kind makes friends with animals that should only be tools. This weakness will hurt you when you try to do business with us. The meeting went on for hours. Daniel talked about Earth and why humans wanted to join the trade group. He showed pictures of Earth cities and farms. He explained what Earth could offer to other worlds. But the whole time, different aliens kept making jokes about Luna. They laughed about how humans loved animals. They said it was silly to care so much about a dog. They said humans were too emotional to be good at business. Luna stayed perfectly still during all of this. She sat when Daniel stood up. She lay down when he talked for a long time. She did not bark or growl, even when the aliens pointed at her and whispered. Only once did Luna react. A small flying robot came too close to Daniel, and Luna's ears pointed forward. But Daniel put his hand on her head and said one word quietly. Easy. Luna relaxed right away and went back to watching the room calmly. When the meeting finally ended, Daniel picked up his papers and electronic tablets. He was tired. The meeting had been long and difficult, and the aliens had been rude. Krillix walked over to Daniel. His mouth parts moved in a way that might have been a smile. We will think about your request, human. But I wonder if people who keep dangerous animals as toys are strong enough for real galactic business. Daniel looked at the tall insect alien and said quietly, We will see about that. He put his hand on Luna's head. She leaned against his leg, and he could feel her warmth and her loyalty. These aliens could laugh all they wanted. They did not understand what dogs meant to humans. They did not understand the bond that had existed for thousands of years. As Daniel walked out of the council room, Luna walked perfectly beside him. Her steps matched his steps. She did not pull on her leash or try to run ahead. She was exactly where she wanted to be, right next to her human. Other aliens in the hallway stopped to stare at them. Some pointed. Some made sounds that might have been laughter or might have been questions. Daniel ignored them all. He thought about what Krillix had said. The Vrex ambassador thought keeping dogs as friends was a weakness. He thought it showed that humans were not smart or strong enough for space politics. But Krillix was wrong. Dogs had made humans stronger. They had helped humans survive in a dangerous world. They had taught humans about loyalty and trust. They had shown humans that love did not need words. Daniel remembered stories from Earth's history. He remembered reading about a dog named Balto, who ran through a terrible snowstorm to bring medicine to sick children. He remembered stories about dogs who saved their owners from fires and floods. He remembered pictures of soldiers who carried their wounded dogs for miles to get them help. Humans did not see dogs as tools or toys. They saw them as partners and family members. That was something the aliens could not understand because they had never done it themselves. Luna looked up at Daniel as they walked. Her brown eyes were warm and trusting. She did not know about the Galactic Council or trade agreements or space politics. She only knew that Daniel was her human, and she would stay with him no matter what. Daniel smiled down at her. "Good girl," he said softly. They reached the docking area where the human ship was waiting. Other members of the Earth delegation were there asking Daniel how the meeting went. "Not great," Daniel admitted. "They think we are weak because we love our dogs." A young woman named Karen Hayes was standing nearby with her own dog, a golden retriever named Max. "They will learn," she said firmly. "They will learn that loving our dogs does not make us weak. It makes us human." Daniel nodded. Karen was right. The aliens would learn. Maybe not today and maybe not tomorrow, but eventually they would understand. Or at least they would learn to respect what they could not understand. 3 months passed after Earth asked to join the Galactic Trade Consortium. The Council said humans could have a temporary position while they decided if Earth was good enough to be a full member. As part of this trial period, humans were allowed to stay on Nexus Station, a giant space station where aliens from all over the galaxy came to meet and do business. Daniel had to go back to Earth to give reports and attend meetings. He left behind a group of human workers on the space station. One of them was Lieutenant Karen Hayes, a young officer who worked for Earth's new Space Diplomatic Corps. Karen had brought her dog with her, a golden retriever named Max. Max was not just any dog. He was trained as a therapy dog, which meant he knew how to help people feel calm when they were worried or scared. Many humans on the station were nervous about living so far from Earth and being around so many strange aliens. Max helped them feel better just by being there. Karen liked having Max with her for the same reason Daniel had brought Luna to the council meeting. She wanted to show the aliens that humans did not hide the things that mattered to them. Dogs were important to humans, and Karen was not going to pretend they were not. The problem started on a normal day in one of the station's rest areas. These were big rooms where people could sit and relax when they were not working. Karen was sitting on a bench reading reports on her electronic tablet. Max was lying on the floor next to her feet, sleeping peacefully. A group of Rex merchants came into the room. These were the same insect-like aliens from the council meeting. One of them worked for Ambassador Krillix. When they saw Karen and Max, they stopped and stared. "Look, another human with their tame beast," one of them said. The translator made it sound almost friendly, but Karen had learned how to tell when Vrex were being mean. Their body language gave them away. Karen nodded at them politely and went back to her reading. She hoped they would leave her alone, but instead they walked closer. "Tell us, human," the lead Vrex said as he stood over her. "What does this animal do for you? Does it protect you? Does it help you work?" Karen looked up from her tablet. "He is a companion, and yes, he helps people who are feeling stressed or worried." The Vrex's mouth parts clicked together in a sound that was clearly laughter. "Your kind needs animals to control your emotions? How did you ever become smart enough to build spaceships?" The other Vrex found this very funny. They all made clicking and chittering sounds. Max woke up when he heard the noise. He lifted his head and looked at the tall alien standing around Karen. Then he looked at Karen with worried brown eyes. Karen reached down and scratched behind Max's soft ears. "It's okay, boy," she said gently. The lead Vrex leaned down closer. His many eyes reflected the station lights like tiny mirrors. "What happens if someone takes away your emotional support animal? Would you stop being able to work?" Before Karen could answer, the Vrex reached out one of his sharp arms toward Max. What happened next took only a few seconds, but it would change everything. Max did not bite or attack. He was trained to be gentle with everyone, but he knew danger when he saw it. A stranger was reaching for him with a sharp limb, and his human was right there. So Max did what any good dog would do. He barked loudly and moved his body between the Vrex and Karen. The Vrex had not expected this. The sudden loud bark made him jump backward. His arms flew out to catch his balance, and he hit his arm hard against a metal support beam. In his panic, he pressed a button on his vest that called for security. Within seconds, the rest area filled with security officers. They came from different alien races, all wearing uniforms and carrying weapons. They looked around for the emergency that had been reported. The Vrex merchant was pointing at Max and making loud clicking noises. "That beast attacked me. The human's predator tried to hurt me." Karen quickly told Max to sit. He obeyed immediately, though he kept his body between Karen and the Vrex. Karen tried to explain what really happened. "He did not attack anyone. He was protecting me from what he thought was a threat." The security chief was a huge Thraxi named Goroth. He looked like a giant lizard standing on two legs. His scales were dark green and his eyes were cold. "The animal must be locked up while we investigate," he said in a deep voice. "Locked up?" Karen could not believe what she was hearing. "Max did not attack anyone. He barked because a stranger reached for him. That's all." "It does not matter," Goroth said. "Station rules are clear. Animals that might be dangerous must be secured. He's not dangerous." Karen's voice got louder. "He was defending me, which is what he's supposed to do." Goroth's tail moved back and forth like a snake. "A merchant came close to you and your animal showed aggression. This is exactly what Ambassador Krillix warned us about. Humans and their unstable, violent pets." Security officers started walking toward Max. The big dog sat still, looking at Karen and waiting for her to tell him what to do. Karen's heart was beating fast. She knew what she had to do. She stood up and moved between the security officers and Max. Then she pulled out her emergency communicator and pressed a special button. "You're not taking him," she said. Her voice was quiet but very firm. The message she sent went out to every human on Nexus Station. It said, "Code Red, Rest Area 7. They're trying to take Max." Code Red was the emergency signal that meant a human needed help right away. On Nexus Station, there were 73 humans. They were engineers, scientists, diplomats, and officers. They came from different countries on Earth. Some were young, some were old. Some had never even met each other before. But when they got Karen's message, every single one of them stopped what they were doing. The engineers left their workstations. The scientists left their laboratories. The diplomats left their meetings. They all started moving toward Rest Area 7. Within 5 minutes, humans were arriving from every direction. They came running down hallways and taking elevators between floors. When they reached the rest area, they did not ask questions first. They saw Karen standing protectively in front of Max, and they saw the security officers surrounding her. That was all they needed to see. The humans formed a circle around Karen and Max. They stood shoulder to shoulder, facing the security officers and the growing crowd of confused aliens who had come to see what was happening. Nobody had told them to do this. Nobody had given orders. They had come because another human needed help. They had come because someone was threatening to take away one of their dogs. More humans kept arriving. Soon there were 23 of them, then 30, then more. They just kept coming, and they all stood together protecting Karen and Max. Goroth looked at the growing crowd of humans. His cold eyes showed something that might have been surprise. "This is against station law," he said. "You cannot refuse security orders." A human engineer named Peter Collins spoke up. "We're not leaving. Max didn't do anything wrong, and you're not taking him." Other humans nodded and said they agreed. The circle around Karen and Max got tighter. Karen stood in the center with her hand resting on Max's head. The golden retriever sat calmly despite all the noise and tension around him. He trusted Karen completely. He knew she would keep him safe, just like he had tried to keep her safe. The aliens watching could not understand what they were seeing. Why would so many humans risk getting in trouble over one animal? It did not make sense to them. But to the humans, it made perfect sense. You protect your family, you protect your friends, and you definitely protect your dog. Helen Morris pushed through the crowd of aliens who had gathered to watch the situation in Rest Area 7. She was the senior diplomat on Nexus Station, which meant she was in charge of all the humans there. When she got the Code Red message, she had been in a meeting with 3 different alien ambassadors. She had left immediately without explaining why. Now she could see what was happening. 37 humans stood in a protective circle around Karen Hayes and Max. Station security officers surrounded them. More aliens were arriving every minute to watch. The situation was getting worse fast. Helen walked straight to the center of the circle. The humans let her through without question. She found Karen standing with one hand on Max's head. The golden retriever was sitting quietly, looking much calmer than any of the beings around him. "Report," Helen said. She kept her voice professional and calm. Karen explained everything in clear, simple words. She told Helen about the Vrex merchant reaching toward Max. She described how Max had barked and moved to protect her. She pointed out that the Vrex had hit the support beam himself when he jumped back in surprise. Helen listened carefully. While Karen talked, Helen looked at her tablet computer. Someone had already sent her the security video of the incident. She watched it twice to make sure she understood exactly what had happened. Goroth, the big Thraxi security chief, moved closer. His scales looked almost black in the station lights. The human refuses to give up the animal for holding. This breaks station law. We have the right to take the creature by force if we must. Helen looked up from her tablet. Her voice was cold as ice. By force? You want to use force against our diplomatic team over a dog that barked? A dog that attacked, Goroth said. No, a dog that barked, Helen corrected him. I've watched the security video. Max barked and placed himself between Karen and someone he saw as a threat. That's not an attack. That's protection. Exactly what he was trained to do. The Vrex merchant who had started everything made loud clicking sounds. It showed violence toward a peaceful merchant doing nothing wrong. Peter Collins, the human engineer, spoke up from the circle. Peaceful? Everyone here has seen the video now. You reached for the dog. Any of us would react the same way if a stranger tried to grab our companion. The other humans made sounds of agreement. Helen noticed more humans arriving even now. They were still coming from different parts of the station. Word had spread fast. Helen turned to Goroth. Security Chief, I am using Article 12 of the Diplomatic Protocols. This incident involves a member of an official delegation and her registered support animal. It must be reviewed by a neutral panel before any action happens. Goroth's tail whipped back and forth with anger. The animal is clearly dangerous. To who? Helen pointed at Max. He is sitting quietly right now. He is completely under control. Only because the human has not been forced to give him up yet, Goroth argued. What happens when we try to take the creature? What happens when she realizes we have the power to take it? The question hung in the air like smoke. Helen could see the calculation in Goroth's eyes. He thought humans would back down when faced with superior numbers and weapons. He thought they would give up when things got hard. He was wrong. Helen thought about everything she knew about human history. She thought about firefighters who ran into burning buildings to save dogs. She thought about soldiers who carried wounded military dogs for miles through dangerous territory. She thought about ordinary people who had faced down bears, criminals, and natural disasters to protect their pets. She thought about what dogs meant to humanity. Not just to one person or one country, but to the whole species. Chief Goroth, Helen said quietly, if you try to take Max by force, you will start a fight that you do not want. Are you threatening violence over an animal? Goroth asked. I am telling you a fact. Look around. Helen gestured at the crowd of humans that now filled the rest area. Every human on this station came when they heard one of our own needed help. They came when they heard you threatened one of our companions. A new voice joined the conversation. Ambassador Krillix had arrived, moving through the crowd on his many legs. His compound eyes glittered as he looked at the scene. Surely this is an exaggeration, Diplomat Morris. You would risk your entire species' reputation in the Galactic Consortium over one domesticated predator. Helen looked straight at the Rex ambassador. Yes, the single word seemed to shock the aliens. They started making noises to each other in their own languages. The translator devices struggled to keep up with all the different sounds. The aliens seemed genuinely confused. This is insanity, Krillix said. Explain to me how this makes any logical sense. Helen took a deep breath. She knew this was the important moment. What she said next would determine not just Max's fate, but possibly Earth's entire relationship with the galactic community. Ambassador Krillix, your species has been traveling in space for 12,000 years. You have built amazing things. You have technology we are just beginning to understand. But in all that time, did you ever stop to bring anyone along with you? Did you ever look at another species and say, come with us, not as food or tools, but as family? Krillix's mouth parts moved. That would be an efficient sentiment. Maybe, Helen agreed. But it is who we are. Dogs are not just animals to us. They are partners. They are family. They walked beside us from caves to cities to space stations. And we do not abandon family, ever. Peter Collins stepped forward. I have a dog back on Earth named Duke. He is 12 years old. He can barely see anymore. His legs hurt when he walks. Do you know how much money I spend on his medicine? More than most aliens would spend on 10 farm animals.
Do you know why?
Because he stayed with me every night after my daughter died. He put his head on my lap while I cried for 6 months. You can call that irrational if you want. I call it love. Other humans started talking too. A maintenance worker told about her dog who smelled a gas leak and saved her family. A security officer described how his dog protected his son from a criminal who broke into their house. A biologist talked about her rescue dog who helped her recover from depression. The aliens listened. Helen could see the confusion on their faces and in their body language. They truly did not understand. They looked at dogs and saw resources, tools, and inefficiency. They could not see the bond that humans saw, but they were starting to see something else. They were seeing that humans were not going to change their minds. They were seeing that this was not a negotiation. This was a line that humans would not cross. "This is your final position?" Goroth asked. "You will protect this one animal even if it costs you your diplomatic standing?" Helen looked at all the humans around her. She saw the same determination on every face. Young and old, male and female, from different countries and different backgrounds. They were all united in this one thing. She turned back to Goroth. "This is our final position. You do not touch our dogs." The words were simple, but they carried the weight of 15,000 years of partnership between humans and dogs. They carried the memory of every human who had ever loved a dog. They carried the promise that humans would never abandon those who trusted them completely. Ambassador Krillix stepped forward. "You are willing to start a conflict over this? You are willing to fight us?" "We do not want to fight," Helen said. "But we will not let you take Max, not today, not ever. If that means Earth cannot join your consortium, then so be it. We will not stop being human just to join your club." The rest area was completely silent now except for the hum of the station's air systems. Hundreds of aliens stared at the circle of humans. The humans stared back, not moving, not backing down. Max sat in the middle of it all, completely calm, his tail wagging slightly. He did not understand galactic politics or trade agreements or diplomatic protocols. He only knew that Karen was there, and many other humans had come to help them. That was enough for him. The standoff continued as Helen waited for the aliens to make the next move. 12 hours after the standoff on Nexus Station, the Galactic Council held an emergency meeting. The Vrex had filed an official complaint against the human delegation. They accused humans of threatening violence, keeping dangerous animals, and refusing to follow lawful orders from station security. Daniel Wright had been called back to the station along with Earth's top diplomatic team. He stood in the massive council chamber once again, but the mood was very different from his first visit. Before, the aliens had been mildly dismissive and condescending. Now there was real tension in the air. Ambassador Krillix stood at his platform. His voice was translated into dozens of languages at once. "This council must address a serious question. Can we allow a species into our consortium that puts animals before diplomatic relations? The humans have made it clear they will accept conflict, even violence, rather than follow reasonable security rules about their domesticated predators." Councillor Vrask, the Thraxi representative, added his agreement. His long tail moved slowly as he spoke. "On Nexus Station, we saw something troubling. Within minutes of one human's call for help, every human on the station came running. They formed a defensive position. They refused lawful orders. All of this for a single animal. If they act this way over pets, how will they behave during real disagreements?" Daniel had spent the entire trip from Earth preparing for this moment. He stepped forward to the speaker's platform. This time Luna was not with him. He had left her in their quarters. This argument needed to be made with words alone. "Honorable council members," Daniel began, "you see our response to the Nexus Station incident as irrational. You see it as proof that humans are too emotional. I understand why. Most of your species became intelligent alone. You domesticated your worlds and bent nature to serve you. Then you reached for the stars. You did it independently, as individual species winning through superiority." He paused to let the translators catch up. "Humanity took a different path. We did not conquer Earth alone. We formed partnerships. 15,000 years ago, wolves and humans looked at each other across a fire and made a choice. We chose to face the world together. And that partnership changed everything." "Sentiment," Krillix interrupted. "You are proving our point, am I?" Daniel activated a holographic display that appeared in the air above him. "Let me show you what this sentiment built." Before dogs, human hunting success was about 30%. After we partnered with dogs, it went up to 60%. Dogs guarded our settlements, which allowed us to develop farming. They pulled sleds in frozen lands, which let us spread across the whole planet. They detected diseases. They protected our children. They helped us deal with the trauma of our many wars. The display showed images from Earth's history, ancient cave paintings of humans and dogs hunting together, medieval manuscripts showing dogs helping shepherds, modern photographs of rescue dogs finding people trapped in collapsed buildings, current images of service dogs helping disabled humans live normal lives. But it was more than just usefulness, Daniel continued. Dogs taught us something crucial. They taught us that intelligence and value are not the same thing. They taught us that loyalty matters more than logic sometimes. They taught us that love does not require language. Every human child grows up learning that we have a responsibility to creatures who depend on us. We learn that trust is sacred. We learn that companionship has value beyond simple function. Counselor Vrask hissed with skepticism. Beautiful words, but they do not address the real issue. You threatened violence over an animal. You were willing to risk everything for a dog. Yes, Daniel said simply. Because that is the test, is it not? It is easy to claim you have values when those values are convenient. The real measure of a civilization is what it does when those values are challenged. He looked around the chamber at all the different alien species. You have mocked us for our emotional attachments. You have called us weak, irrational, and primitive. But I want you to ask yourselves this. What would you fight for? What would you risk everything to protect? The Vrex ambassador made a clicking sound. We fight for our colonies, our resources, our survival as a species. Self-interest, Daniel noted. All very logical. But would any of you risk your political standing for a creature that could not even understand the sacrifice you were making? Would you fight for something that gives you loyalty and love but cannot give you profit or power? The chamber fell silent. The aliens looked at each other. Some seemed confused by the question. Others seemed to be thinking seriously about it. That is what you do not understand about Nexus Station, Daniel said. It was not about one dog. It was about whether we could stand before you and remain who we are. Lieutenant Hayes was not just protecting Max. She was protecting the principle that we do not abandon those who trust us, even when it is hard, even when it costs us something. A new voice spoke. Counselor Myrus of the Quillic stepped forward. The crystalline being's voice sounded like musical chimes through the translator. Ambassador Wright, your words are moving. But my species achieved our technological advancement through pure logic, through removing emotional bias from our decisions. We have thrived for 8,000 years in this consortium. What makes you think your emotional approach will not lead to catastrophic mistakes? Daniel smiled slightly. Counselor Myrus, with respect, when was the last time your species created great art? When did you last write a song that made someone cry? When did you last make something just because it brought joy? The crystalline counselor seemed to darken slightly. We create for purpose, for function. And you have created wonders, Daniel acknowledged. But you have also created a society that 40% of your young people leave before they turn 30. They move to other worlds because they find Quillic's culture emotionally empty. I have read the statistics, counselor. Your people are leaving because pure logic is not enough for a good life. The murmur that went through the council suggested this was a sensitive subject. Many of the Quillics in the chamber shifted uncomfortably. Daniel pressed forward. Here is what I propose to this council. Do not judge us based on whether we love our dogs. Judge us on what that love has made us capable of. We are the species that sent messages into space for aliens we might never meet. We are the species that keeps vaults of seeds in case of global disaster. We are the species that banned certain weapons because they caused unnecessary suffering. Even to our enemies, he paused and looked around the chamber, meeting as many eyes as he could. We are also the species that will protect those who depend on us no matter the cost. If you find that threatening, perhaps you should ask yourselves why. Is it because we are dangerous? Or is it because we remind you of something you have lost or never had? The chamber erupted into debate. Aliens argued with each other in dozens of languages. The translator system struggled to keep up with all the voices talking at once. Daniel stood quietly at the podium, knowing he had said everything he could say. Some aliens seemed angry. Others seemed thoughtful. A few seemed almost sad, as if Daniel's words had touched something they had forgotten about. The council chairman, an ancient being whose species Daniel had not yet learned the name of, raised a limb for silence. This council will deliberate on Earth's membership and on the broader questions raised here today. We will reconvene in 3 days with our decision. Daniel bowed respectfully and left the platform. As he walked out of the chamber, he wondered if he had done enough. He wondered if the aliens would ever truly understand. He wondered what would happen to Earth's future among the stars, but most of all, he thought about Luna waiting for him in their quarters, and about Max safe with Karen on the station, and about all the dogs throughout human history who had walked beside their humans through everything. While the Galactic Council spent 3 days discussing Earth's future, something unexpected began happening on Nexus Station. Aliens started approaching the human delegation with questions about dogs. Karen Hayes found herself talking to groups of curious Quilix scientists who wanted to understand how interspecies bonding worked. They asked detailed questions about training, about communication, about how humans and dogs understood each other without speaking the same language. Peter Collins showed holographic videos of his old dog Duke to young Vrex traders who seemed fascinated despite themselves. They watched clips of Duke playing fetch, learning tricks, and cuddling with Peter's grandchildren. The young Vrex asked question after question, their earlier mockery replaced by genuine curiosity. Even some of the Thraxi security officers began asking questions. They wanted to know how dogs could be trained to protect humans without being dangerous to others. They seemed impressed by the level of control humans had over their dogs, and by the fact that dogs seemed to want to obey. The change was gradual but real. The aliens were beginning to see dogs not as weakness or irrationality, but as something they did not fully understand yet. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Counselor Myris, the crystalline Quilix representative, requested a private meeting with Daniel. They met in a small diplomatic room with comfortable seating and soft lighting. Luna lay quietly at Daniel's feet, watching the crystalline being with calm interest. Ambassador Wright, Myris began, his voice chiming softly. I have been reviewing Earth's cultural database. I found something that troubles me deeply. What did you find? Daniel asked carefully. A story about a dog named Hachiko, an Akita from a place called Japan who waited at a train station every day for 9 years after his owner died. The colors swirling inside Myris's crystalline form changed in ways Daniel could not interpret. The dog did not understand death. He did not know his owner was never coming back. He simply waited faithfully, every single day, for 9 years. It is one of our most famous stories, Daniel confirmed. It is completely illogical, Myris said. The dog wasted 9 years of its life waiting for something that would never happen. Resources were spent feeding it and caring for it. For what purpose? Daniel thought carefully about his answer. What purpose does art serve, counselor? What is the function of beauty? Hachiko became a symbol of loyalty and love that goes beyond reason. Millions of humans have been inspired by his story. His statue stands at that train station still, hundreds of years later. How do you measure the value of that? Myris was quiet for a long moment. The colors inside his crystalline body shifted and flowed. I have also reviewed the statistics you mentioned about young Quilix leaving our world. You were correct. 42% of our youth emigrate to other planets. Most give the same reason. They say they feel no connection to anything, no purpose beyond function. The crystalline being seemed to dim slightly. We thought we had eliminated weakness by removing emotion from our society. Perhaps we eliminated something necessary instead. It is never too late to change, Daniel said gently. Perhaps you are right. Myris straightened, his form brightening. Ambassador Wright, I have convinced enough council members to support a compromise. The Galactic Council will approve Earth's membership in the consortium. However, there will be some restrictions on where humans can bring their companion animals. Some stations and worlds will remain closed to dogs. Daniel felt his jaw tighten. That is not acceptable. We will not treat our dogs as second class. Let me finish, Myris said quickly. The restrictions will be voluntary. Each individual world and station can choose whether to welcome humans and their companions. We predict that many will choose to welcome you, especially facilities with younger populations who are curious about your species. And the places that refuse us? Humans will be free to avoid such places. Market forces will determine the outcome. Myris's form brightened with what might have been satisfaction. I suspect, Ambassador, that facilities open to humans and dogs will see significant advantages. Your species brings something unique to the consortium. You remind us that intelligence alone is not enough for a fulfilled life. The formal vote took place the next day. The massive council chamber was even more crowded than usual. Representatives from all 47 member species were present, along with observers from dozens more worlds considering membership. Daniel stood at the speaker's platform with Luna by his side. This time he had brought her deliberately. If the council was going to accept Earth, they needed to accept all of what Earth was. The vote was called. One by one, species cast their votes. The results appeared on a massive holographic display that everyone could see. When it was over, Earth's membership had been approved by a vote of 32 to 15. Several species had chosen not to vote at all, but more significantly, the Council passed a new rule that would be added to the consortium's charter. Daniel listened as it was read aloud in dozens of languages. Member species shall be free to maintain cultural practices involving companion animals. Such practices reflect values deserving of respect rather than mockery. Individual member worlds and stations may set their own policies regarding companion animals, and member species may choose which facilities to use based on those policies. It was not everything Daniel had hoped for. Some places in the galaxy would still refuse to allow dogs, but it was something important. Earth had not compromised its values, and the galaxy had learned something crucial. 3 months later, Daniel stood in the same rest area on Nexus Station where the standoff had happened. The station had not only welcomed companion animals, but had built a special area just for them. There was soft artificial grass, water fountains designed for dogs, and even some toys. Max was playing with Luna right now while Karen supervised. The golden retriever kept bringing a ball to Karen, who would throw it across the grass. Max would run after it, grab it, and bring it back. Then the whole thing would start again. A small crowd of alien children watched with fascination. A young Vrex approached Daniel, his translator rendering his words with a child's natural curiosity. "Ambassador, why does the golden dog keep bringing the ball back? The human throws it away, but the dog retrieves it. This seems like a waste of effort." Daniel smiled. "Max brings it back because he loves Karen, and he knows that playing this game makes her happy. So he does it over and over. But what does the dog get in return?" "Love," Daniel said simply. "And the joy of making someone he cares about smile." The young Vrex watched for a while longer, his mouth parts clicking softly. "I think I begin to understand why you fought for them." "Oh?" Daniel was curious. "My parent says humans are strange because they make everything complicated with emotions. But watching this, I think humans make things simple. The dog loves the human loves the dog. So they play together. It is not complicated at all." Daniel felt warmth spread through his chest. "You are wiser than many adults, young one." That evening, Daniel recorded his final report to Earth's government. He sat in his quarters with Luna sleeping on her bed nearby. The Galactic Council now understands that humanity comes as a complete package. We bring our values, our culture, and yes, our dogs. Some species will never understand the bond between humans and their companions, but they do not have to understand it. They just have to respect it. He looked down at Luna, who stirred in her sleep and made a small sound. He smiled. "They mocked us for loving our pets. They called it weakness, irrationality, and foolish sentiment. What they did not realize is that our capacity to love beings who cannot fully understand or repay that love is not a weakness. It is one of our greatest strengths. It is the foundation of empathy, of loyalty, of sacrifice for something beyond ourselves." The galaxy is learning that humans do not just explore space. We bring our hearts with us, and that includes making room for creatures who have walked beside us from the very beginning. Luna woke up and lifted her head. She looked at Daniel with warm brown eyes full of trust and affection. He reached down to scratch behind her ears, and her tail thumped against her bed. No words were needed. Some bonds go beyond language. They go beyond species. They even go beyond the vast emptiness of space itself. And now the galaxy was beginning to understand why humans would fight to protect those bonds. They were beginning to see that the strength to love something completely, to protect something unconditionally, was not weakness at all. It was what made humans human. Daniel finished his report and closed his computer. Luna came over and put her head on his knee. He scratched her ears and thought about all the dogs throughout history who had loved humans the same way Luna loved him, now completely unconditionally forever. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. You could mock humans for many things, but never mock what they loved. Because humans would show you exactly what happens when you threatened something they cared about. They would stand together. They would refuse to back down. They would risk everything to protect those who trusted them. And in the end, that was not weakness. That was the truest strength of all.